अच्छा कहाँ पे थे हम? Quick recap: organic chemistry, it's a chemistry of carbon compounds. Why carbon? I told you that carbon, all living organisms, everything is made out of carbon, right? Carbon makes four bonds, four very strong bonds. So you can make very good structures out of it. ठीक है? Human hair, human skin, human blood cells, everything. You can make complicated structures if the atom is making four bonds. ठीक है? तो पहली चीज हमने की थी कि when you draw a molecule, you should be able to figure out whether it makes the right number of bonds or not. ठीक है? So everywhere carbon should be making four bonds. Look at this, carbon is making four bonds. ठीक है? यहाँ पे भी carbon is making four bonds. तो हमने वो structure का पढ़ा था कि you should be able to draw correct structures. That was the first thing. ठीक है? फिर हमने किया था homologous series. I told you that in the nature there's billions of different organic compounds, and हर तरह का organic compound है, plants, living organisms, everything, billions and billions of different organic compounds. You classify them into families. ठीक है? आपकी human body में there are billions of different organic molecules. You classify them into families, which are known as homologous series, and the way you do it is you group them together if they have similar chemical reactions, or they have similar, or नहीं है, मतलब ये सारी properties होंगी. They're going to show similar physical properties as well. They will also have the same functional group, which is that if you have an organic molecule, तो उसके अंदर the whole thing is not going to react. It's going to be a structure or a group of atoms that will actually be undergoing the reaction. ठीक है? So they will have the same functional group. A tiny part of the molecule is the one that will react. ठीक है? They will also have the same general formula. We did general formulas, and successive members will differ by CH2. Yani, these two are belong to the same family because this one has a double bond, this one also has a carbon-carbon double bond. Iska jo formula, that's 3 carbons and 6 hydrogens. This one is 4 carbons and 8 hydrogens. So successive members differ by 1 carbon and 2 hydrogens. CH2 ka difference hota hai. When you have 2 members, one with 3 carbon atoms, the other one with 4 carbon atoms. अच्छा, फिर families पे हम आ गए थे. I told you कि the first homologous series that you're going to do is alkanes. So alkanes kya the? Alkanes are a bunch of hydrocarbons, which means that they only contain carbon and hydrogen atoms only. And so that is what an alkane is. And all of the bonds are going to be single bonds. Okay? So these are all alkanes. Okay? So just carbon and hydrogen atoms. Everywhere carbon should be making 4 bonds. Hydrogen ka jo atom hai, that makes just 1 bond. So carbon is making 4 bonds. This carbon is making 4 bonds around it. This one is making 4 bonds. So that is what an alkane is. We learned how do you name alkanes. तो उसमें था कि you name alkanes based on 2 parts. One is prefix, जो उसका start होता है, that's how the name starts, and that depends on the number of carbon atoms. If the molecule has 1 carbon atom, so the name starts with meth, 2 carbons eth, 3 carbons prop, 4, 5. यहाँ तक मैंने कहा था, you just have to remember it up till O levels, right? If you can go all the way up till 10 carbon atoms, 9 carbon atoms non, 8 carbon atoms oct. This octane नहीं होता. You go to the fuel station and there's high octane written. ठीक है? That's oct means that it's got 8 carbon atoms. अच्छा, फिर we did I'm going to draw alkanes. Methane means, meth means 1 carbon atom. So it's an alkane, a hydrocarbon that will only have 1 carbon atom, and तो उसके साथ there will be 4 hydrogens because carbon makes 4 bonds, right? Ethane, eth means 2 carbon atoms. So it's going to have 2 carbon atoms and you can complete the bonds. Carbon should be making 4 bonds. So that's 1, 2, and that's the 4th one. 1, 2, 3, and that's the 4th one. Okay? So that's ethane. Butane, but means 4 carbon atoms. Okay? So you have to memorize this, that what does all of this mean? Meth, eth, prop, but, pent. Okay? So pent means pentagon se yaad rakh lo. Pent means 5 carbon atoms. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it will have each carbon should be making 4 bonds. So you can add the appropriate number of hydrogen atoms. Okay? So that was one way of writing the formula, which is you show all the bonds. And then there was this other way, okay, you could condense it. You don't have to show the bonds. Is C ke saath there are 3 H's, so that's CH3. This one is C with 3 H's, so that's CH3. This one is C with 3 H's, CH3. This is C with 2 H's, that's CH2, and this one is C with 3 H's, so that's CH3. ठीक है? तो इसको ये उसकी condensed version है. This is like an expanded version and this is the same thing but in a condensed form. ठीक है, इसके अंदर ये लिखना थोड़ा सा मुश्किल है. This one is easy. You can just count the bonds. C with 3 H's, CH3, CH2, 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 and this is C with 3 H's. So that's CH3. अच्छा, बाकी है कि we also did general formulas. I told you that the general formula is CnH2n plus 2, which means n is the number of carbon atoms. So you don't even have to draw this. All you have to do is, if you know the value of n, okay, if you have 3 carbon atoms, okay, if the molecule is propane, prop means 3 carbon atoms. You can just plug in 3 over here. So if 3 plug in karoge 3, this would be 3 into 2, 6. 6 plus 2, that will be 8. So it's going to be C3H8. Okay, CnH2n plus 2, right? So C3H2n 2 into 3 plus 2. That will give you C3H8. So इसका formula that's you can count it. It's C3. मेरा mouse का चला गया, एक second. So that's एक second में तो sir. So that is C3H8, and similarly you can do this one. Just one second. तो यहाँ पे pentane में N is 5, so it's going to be C5. So it's going to be C5, and H will be 2n plus 2, so it's going to be 2 into 5 plus 2. Okay, 2n plus 2. N over here is 5. Pent means 5 carbon atoms, right? So if I solve this, it's going to be C5 and H will become 12. Okay, so it's going to be C5H12, and you can have a look and count all of this. This is 12 hydrogens. Okay, so the general formula is a quick way of knowing or figuring out कि उसका final formula क्या होगा. ठीक है. I said then you have, we did the other one, which is alkenes. Alkenes clear है ना सारों को? What are alkenes, right?
Yes, sir.
ठीक है. So then we did alkenes. That's another family of compounds. Alkenes में I told you कि when you talk about an alkene, तो अच्छा, when you talk about an alkene, it's also a hydrocarbon. It only has carbon and hydrogen atoms, right? लेकिन उसमें difference ये होता है कि there's at least one, somewhere between the carbon atoms, there's a double bond. This is known as unsaturated. The word that they use is unsaturated. So you call it an unsaturated molecule. Okay? So you've got a bunch of carbon atoms, and somewhere between the carbon atoms, there is a double bond between the carbon atoms. Carbon abhi bhi 4 bonds bana raha hai. This is making 4 bonds. This is making 4 bonds. This one is also making 4 bonds. 2 over here, 1 over here, 1 over here. That's 4. This one is also making 4 bonds. 1, 1, and 2. So that's 4 bonds, right? So the alkenes are going to be named in exactly the same way, except that the suffix yani end, the naam just end ho raha hai, that will be -ene. So you can't have methene. Meth means 1 carbon atom, because you at least need 2 carbon atoms to make this happen. So alkenes start with ethene. The first one, the smallest alkene, that's ethene. Eth means 2 carbon atoms, so that's a double bond, and between 2 carbon atoms, or baki you can add the hydrogens to complete the bonds of carbon. Propene will be 3 carbon atoms. That's 1, 2, 3. And there's going to be a double bond somewhere between the carbon atoms, and iske saath 2 H honge, 1 H with this one, 3 H's with this one, right? So we did alkenes, and we did butene as well. Butene will be 4 carbon atoms. But means 4 carbon atoms, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4. And remember, Hamabina, we're only dealing with straight chain carbon atoms, right? The carbon atoms being in a line, straight line. So, I mean, those are the only molecules that are in a course when it comes to naming. So just straight, all carbon atoms in a straight line. Anyways, I got a double bond over here, and I added all the hydrogen atoms to complete the structure. And a butene, there were different versions of butene. I told you that the double bond can be over here. I mean, I can do another one. I can do pentene, right? So pentene will be what? Ene agar aa raha hai na, if there is ene in it. ठीक है, so if there is if there's ene at the end, that means it's an alkene. It's a 5 carbon atom alkene. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or beach mein na, somewhere in the middle there's going to be a double bond. So I'm going to put a double bond on the first one, right? So that is what pentene would look like. And I'm going to complete the molecule by adding hydrogens. This one needs 2 more bonds, so that I will add 2 more hydrogens to it. Acha, phir this one will have 1H. This one will have 2 H's. This one will have, every carbon should have 4 bonds, right? So as anyways, that's what pentene looks like. But the thing is, you can have many different versions of pentene. Okay, the double bond, इसको अगर मैं उठाऊं ना बीच में, the carbon atoms, right? So I could have different versions of pentene. There are actually, I guess, 2 versions of pentene. The double bond could be over here as well. Okay, the double bond, I could add the double bond over here as well. So that is a pentene molecule as well. So hydrogens add karo, this one will have 3 hydrogens. This one will have 1H. Remember, each carbon atom makes 4 bonds. So this one will have 1H, this one will have 1H, and this one will have 2 H's. This one has, I guess, 3 H's, right? Okay. So it's basically, let me see, hold on, 1 second. So this is basically CH3, CH, CH, CH2, CH3. Well, if I write the condensed version. So you'll have 2 versions of pentene. So you would have to name the molecules accordingly. Like you have to, ki kaun sa wala pentene at this, I mean, because there are 2 different pentenes, right? Because the double bond position is different. In one of them, the double bond position is right at the start, in the beginning, and in the other one, the double bond position is somewhere in the middle of the carbon chain. Okay, this is known as a carbon chain. So what you do is you count where the double bond position is. So yahan pe it's on which carbon atom? It's on the first carbon atom. You give the carbon's number. This is first, this is second, this is third, this is the fourth one, and this one is the 5th carbon atom. So line mein na, it's on the first carbon atom. So what you call this molecule is, you call it pentene, but you give it a number. It's pent1-ene. One means the position, where is the double bond, right? And similarly, in the second one, that's also pentene, but that's a Haji.
Pent2-ene.
Exactly. So the double bond is on the second carbon atom. So this one is ene se pehle na, pent2-ene. Actually, remember, ene ka jo matlab hai na, ene means double bond, right? So before that, it means the double bond is at the second position. So this one is pent2-ene. And a few points about how do you count? Why did I not count from the other side? Yeah, why did I not have other versions of this pentene? The reason being, okay, I could put the double bond at the end as well, right? Right at the end. But agar main bilkul end pe karunga na, right at the end. So this will have H's, 3 with this one. 2 with this one.
Is this the same with the
as the first one, right? So if I
yes,
so basically if I have this molecule, if I put the double bond on the 4th one, right? All I have to do is I'll pick up the molecule. I won't do anything. I'll just rotate it, and you can see that it looks exactly like the first one. So बस वो उसी चीज को आपने उल्टा करके ना, you just picked it up. Like if there's a table in front of you, just rotate it around. It's still the same table, right? कोई नई चीज थोड़ी है वो. So this one is not a different thing. It's exactly the same thing. It's इसको देख भी लो. The first carbon atom has 2 hydrogen. This one also has 2 hydrogen. Then you have a double bond Then this carbon has 1H, this one has 1H, then CH2, CH2, CH3, CH2, CH2. So these two are exactly the same, which is why I did not put double bonds. I did not shift it further. क्योंकि अगर मैं यहाँ पे shift करता ना, it would mean the same thing. I mean, you just pick this up and you just put it the other way around. So this molecule over here is not a new molecule. This one is just a rotated version. Of the first molecule of pent-1ene. ठीक है, ये बात clear है? आमना, उर्वा, Suhaib, is this clear?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Achha, so this is just a rotated version of the same thing. It's exactly the same. Yeah, आगे जाके we'll do isomers and I'll explain that. Rotating a molecule, even bending it, okay, that does not, like, if I were to just bend it, कि यहाँ से इसको पकड़ा है, and I've started मतलब bending one side, right? इस तरह कर दिया. So that's not a different molecule. It's exactly the same molecule. You have to understand कि वो, let's say you have a long chain, right? This is dog leash होती है. You've got this long chain, and you bend it. It's still the same thing, right? It's not something different. उसको उल्टा करके लिख लो, it's still the same thing, right? So beware about these molecules as well. Rotating it, as long as you don't break them and rearrange them, they will remain the same molecule. Okay, you can twist it around, it's still exactly the same thing. Okay, so ये चीज है. Anyways, we're done with the alkenes. Okay, we'll move on. Okay, just remember what an alkene is, and in an alkene you would have to number के बारे में point नहीं लिखा. I'll write the point, which is that when you number a molecule or a group or anything, so position or counting is done from the side that gives the smaller number. So counting is done from the end which gives the smaller number. या जहां से वो closer होगा, which gives so for example this one. Let's talk about this wrong one. If I were to actually name it, which side will I count? Like, if I want to give the double bond position, should I count it from this side? Because this side it's going to be the first carbon, second, third.
Closer to the.
So I'm going to count it from the other end, which is 1. It's on the first one, right? Because on the other side, if I count it, it's going to give me 1, 2, 3, and it's on the fourth. Double bond is on the fourth one. If I count it from this side, but if I count it from this side, I'll get 1. So naam phir wahi aayega. It's going to be pent-1ene, right? So and that will kind of indicate that this one and this one are exactly the same. Okay, so remember this. When you number a group, you count it from this end, which gives jahan se wo closer hoga, okay, the closer side. So this one would automatically be, its name will come out to be pent-1ene. Achha, next page is next homologous series. Okay, let's you've got alcohols. So what are now what are alcohols?
Which has which has OH.
अच्छा एक सेकंड, पहले वाले में did we do general formula? अच्छा, I did write the general formula, but we didn't do it. In alkenes, the general formula is CnH2n, where n is the number of carbon atoms. So all you have to do is put in the number of carbon atoms. Like if I have this one is butene, right? Bute means 4 carbon atoms. If I put in 4 carbon atoms, right? So it's going to be what? It's going to be C4. और H2N का मतलब है डबल कर दो, it's going to be 8. ठीक है, so that's so N to N. So the number of hydrogen is double the number of carbon atoms, right? So C4H8, you can count this. This is actually C4H8. There are 8 hydrogens. So you can directly figure out the formula. Pentene ka bhi dekh lo, it's got 5 carbon atoms. The moment you hear the term dent, that means 5 carbon atoms. So that's Cn. And H2N, that means H will be double. So you can count it. It's 10 hydrogens. You don't have to like count it. You can just use the formula. The hydrogens will be double the amount of carbon atoms. Okay, that's the general formula for this. So let's move to alcohols. Alcohols are they've got first thing, they've got the OH functional group. So there's a group that is attached to the carbon chain that is known as the OH functional group. Okay, this OH functional group is present in a lot of molecules. Okay. अच्छा, जहां पे भी molecules जैसे Panadol है, ठीक है, I don't know if I don't even know what the structure of Panadol is. Paracetamol, right? Structure. Let me just. ठीक है, so you can see that. So although this one is an A-level structure, but I'll just give you an idea that what you'll see is this is the Panadol structure, like the medicine that you take when you have fever, right? So it's got an OH group. Yeah, आगे जाके ना A levels में you'll study के instead of writing all the carbon atoms, you can just draw lines. That's it. Okay, that just shows a carbon chain. Anyways, that's not in your course at the moment, but all I wanted to show you was Panadol has the word all coming at the end, right? So that's an alcohol. It's got the OH group. So you've got lots of things in nature that have alcohol functional groups. So the carbon chain will have the OH functional group. And remember this, that it's the O that is bonded to the carbon chain. Okay, H, the O and H have a single bond. H only makes one bond, right? So it's always the O that is bonded to it. Like so this is what an alcohol is. It's a bunch of carbon atoms, a carbon chain. So you've got these random carbon chains. And there will be an OH that will be attached to it. So O and H. But it's the O that is attached to it. Okay, so this is the functional group. Okay, that determines the chemical reaction of this. So it's a carbon chain with an OH attached to it. And you can fill in the hydrogens. This one will have it's going to be 3. Okay, so this one will have 3 hydrogens. This one over here will have 1. This one will have 3 hydrogens. There's going to be 2 over here, right? So that's what an alcohol is. And I'll do another version where I'll attach the OH somewhere else. Let's say the OH is attached. So when it's attached over here, so remember it's the O that is bonded to it, okay? The carbons. And I can fill in. This one will have 2 more H's. This one will have 3 H's. That's an alcohol as well, right? So we draw karte hai na, just be careful. What people do is when they write OH, it's never the H that is connected. It's always the O that is connected to the carbon chain. ये बात clear है?
Yes, sir.
ठीक है, तो उसको अगर लेफ्ट पे कनेक्ट करोगे तो it's you're going to connect the O with the carbon chain. So flip it around and then connect the O with it. So that's what an alcohol is, and the general formula for an alcohol is CnH2n plus 1 and OH. Achha, N is the number of carbon atoms. So that's the general formula. You can just apply it. If I apply it to this molecule, what's the number of carbon atoms? That's 4, right? So the formula will be C4. H is 2n plus 1. 2n plus 1 means 4 into 2. Sorry, 2n, 2 into 4. So 2 into 4 plus 1, 2n plus 1, NOH. So that's C4H9, NOH. You can count this. This is C4, H9, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9. Put a 9. Okay, so you can directly arrive at the formula if you just know how many carbons it's got. This one will be C2, and AH2 into 2, that's 4 plus 1, 5, OH. So this will be C2H5 OH. And OH. ठीक है. अब ये करना है कि naming, it's exactly the same. I'll just do the first 4. It's exactly the same. You'll have methanol. Achha, sorry, the naming, the suffix now will be, as a suffix will be all. ठीक है. AN बीच में ना आ जाता है, that just means that doesn't mean anything at the moment. ठीक है. बाद में it would mean something, but the name will end with all. So you'll have meth, and it's going to end with it's going to be methanol. ठीक है. So that's how the name will be written. Meth means 1 carbon atom. ठीक है. Remember, meth, कितने carbon atoms are? That's 1. So it's got 1 carbon atom. So it's supposed to have the OH functional group, right? So O and H, and the carbon will have 3 H's, right? So, or वो भी कर लो, CnH2n plus 1. So that's CH3OH. So that's methanol. That's the first one. Then you can have ethanol. Eth means.
Sir, why is that HO like in the second one? Why is it OH?
नहीं, वो मैंने explain किया था ना कि I told you कि ये जो OH नहीं है, OH functional group. I told you कि it's the O that is bonded to the carbon chain. Clear है? मतलब इसको ये जो OH है ना, who makes 2 bonds? H or O? O makes 2 bonds, right? So imagine this thing flying around, ठीक है? अगर वो आके attach होता है, it's not, I mean, the H is not the one that's going to go and bond with the carbon chain. I mean, that's wrong. क्योंकि H जो है ना, it does not make 2 bonds. H तो एक ही बनाता है ना, so right now the H can never be in the middle. The H जो है ना, it's always on the outside. It's the O that is capable of, ये बीच में मैंने actually ना इसका bond show नहीं किया हुआ, it's वो मैं दिखाता हूँ एक second. The important question है. Remember, OH के अंदर ना, the H is already complete. Sorry, this one. Remember, in OH, the H is already complete. Its bonding is complete. ये O है that is missing 1 bond. It's supposed to make 2 bonds, right? So imagine this OH going around trying to attach itself to a carbon chain, right? तो जब वो जाएगा ना, तो it's not the H that will bond with the carbon atom. क्योंकि the H never makes 2 bonds. तो इसको rotate करो, it's the O that is the one that's going to go and attach itself to the carbon atom. और बात समझ आई है?
Yes, sir.
और इस चीज का ख्याल रखना है, ठीक है? ये बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंट चीज है कि don't mess this up. The H is always on the outside. The H is, I mean, there's a word used for it, and that's known as a terminal atom. Okay, जहाँ पे H लग जाता है ना, that's where the chain ends, because after that there's not going to be any bonding. कि मतलब if you put an H over here, that's it. मतलब इस side पे ना, you can't make further bonds because the H is not going to make a second bond. ठीक है? इधर अगर if you attach any other atom, maybe it makes more bonds. ठीक है? तो H is known as a terminal atom, so the H is never in the middle. It's always on the end. तो OH को अगर लेफ्ट साइड पर अटैच करोगे तो हमेशा कनेक्ट द O नॉट द H टू द कार्बन चेन. ठीक है, दिस इज समथिंग इंपॉर्टेंट. So ethanol पे आ जाते हैं. What is ethanol? Ethanol is two carbon atoms now, right? It's two carbon atoms and there's going to be OH somewhere. इधर लगा देते हैं. And the rest will be three hydrogens with this one. And there's going to be two hydrogens with this one. अच्छा, फिर you've got propanol. So propanol will be prop means three carbon atoms, right? So three carbon atoms and you'll have an OH. And this one will have two H's and two H's, and this one will have three H's. अच्छा, इन दोनों में मुझे बताओ, can ethanol have another version? Is there another place where I can put the OH group instead of on this one? Will it make a difference if I put it on the other carbon atom? Will it make a difference, or is it's
No,
good?
it won't.
It won't, because it's going to be the same thing. You just take this molecule and just flip it around. It's so the OH is on the other carbon atom, so it doesn't make a difference. It's exactly the same molecule. Okay. So, but over here, is there another position where I can put the OH group? If I put the OH group on the first carbon atom, will it make a difference, or will it be the same molecule?
Same.
What if I put the OH on the middle carbon atom? Will it be a different molecule? Okay, then so I'll draw all three of them. Okay, Messi, just for clarity. So what I can do is I can remember the OH is the functional group, and that could be what I can do is I can take that OH group and I can rotate it and put it. Put
No
it.
difference.
You know, this one. Is it the same or is it different? इन दोनों में difference है कि नहीं है?
From the above, yes, it's different.
It's different, right? So it is different. If it would not have been different if I had put the OH on the first carbon atom. ठीक है, कि if I had put the OH and I would have either say H and I took the OH and I went and I attached it on the first carbon atom और इधर H attach कर दिया. अच्छा, these two are exactly the same. ठीक है, that's so these two are exactly. I mean, these two are exactly the same. You just pick that up, put it the other way around. That's it. It's exactly the same molecule, but this is different. Okay, this is structurally different. I mean, it's constructed in a different way compared to how this is constructed. This one is constructed in exactly the same way. Okay, clear है? तो propanol जो है ना, there are two different types of propanol. This is, so what number should I write with this one? What number should I write with this one?
One prop, no prop, one whole.
Number बता दो. हाँ, ठीक है. One, right? And this one is
one too.
Okay, this is on the second carbon atom. This is on the first carbon atom. So all se pehle na you'll write the number. The name that you'll give this is propanol, but this one, to be exact, is propan-1-ol. Okay, before the all you write the number, just like alkenes. Alkenes means you had position. So, and this one will be propan-2-ol. So this will be propan-2-ol. So you've got two different. You've got two different structures. And the same goes for butanol. If I go for butanol, you'll have multiple positions where you could put the OH group. Okay, they'll all be different molecules. So let's try अच्छा ये समझ आइए आमना उर्वा सोहेब, is this all clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
ये बाकियों भी clear है. अच्छा, so butanol, you got but is 4 carbon atoms. That means 1, 2, 3 and 4. अच्छा, now it's an alcohol, so it will have कितनी different versions हो सकती हैं इसकी. You can place the OH on the first carbon atom, you can place it on the second one. ठीक है, so the OH could be over here, that's the first carbon atom. ठीक है, remember you count from the closest side, and you can put the OH on the second carbon atom. ठीक है, you count from the closest side. यहाँ से that's the first, this is the second, right? If I put the OH on the third one, is that going to be a different molecule or the same molecule?
Different.
So let's try. Okay, here's another one. I'm going to put the OH group on the third one. ठीक है. You look at these two are actually exactly the same. Okay, I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to pick this up. I'm just going to rotate it. Does it look exactly the same? It's exactly the same, right? So clear है Shoaib?
Yes, sir.
So इसका मतलब है attaching it on the second one, it doesn't make any difference, right? Attaching it to the first one will also not be different. It's going to be the same one. You just flip it around and that's on the first one from the left. So basically you just have two versions. There's just two different versions. ये वाली different नहीं है. That's exactly the same. So anyways, I'm going to add in the hydrogens. So that's 1, 2, 3. This one will have 2 hydrogens. This one will have 2. This one will also have 2. 3 hydrogens with this one. This one will have 2 hydrogens. This one will have 1 hydrogen. This one will have 3 hydrogens. Both of them have exactly the same formula, which is, although the structure is different, but both of them have the same formula, which is C4. But the CnH2n plus 1 OH, C4. H2n, that's 8 plus 1, that's 9. So that's 9 and OH. So both of them are actually C4H9OH. The name of this one will be butanol. Okay, so one of them is butanol, but before the one there's all. And this one over here is butan2-all. Okay, clear? We're done with the alcohols, right? Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
So just remember an alcohol will be a carbon chain that's got an OH group. Okay. Alkenes are a carbon chain and they've got a double bond. That's the last part. Last is carboxylic acid. Okay, so what's a carboxylic? So what's a
Sir, why is that 1 and why is that 2? ये जो butanol है.
The OH कौन सी position पर attached है on the carbon chain? That's on the first carbon atom.
So it starts from the right hand side?
नहीं, वो हमने पढ़ा था, बताया था, यहाँ पे लिखा भी था कि I told you कि when you're counting, I think this one, I told you that when you're counting, you count from the side, from the end which gives the smaller number. या जहां से ना it's closer to count or easier to count. Is that clear? So when you count, ठीक है, for example, इसके ऊपर when you count, which side is closer? This side is closer, right? So it's on the first one. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
So this is 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you're going to count from this side. उसी तरह, if you want to give the position of this OH, where is it? It's इस side से, if I count from this side, that's on the third carbon atom. If I count from that side, it's on the second carbon atom. You count from the side which is closer to the, you count from the end which is closer to the functional group. ठीक है? Clear? तो
Yes, sir.
अब आ जाते हैं आखिरी पे, carboxylic acid. You've got carboxylic acid, which is now carboxylic acid is this thing. It's every carboxylic acid has this structure in it. That's the functional group. It's going to have C double bond O and OH. And it's not just going to have OH, it's going to have C double bond O with it. I mean, this entire structure together. It must have this entire thing in the molecule as it is. That is its functional group. Okay, that's the functional group of a carboxylic acid. An example is if I have 3 carbon atoms, one of them will be double bond O and OH. So that means that's a carboxylic acid. It must have this thing in it, and you can add the hydrogens. Okay, this one will have 2 hydrogens. You can just write CH2. This one will have 3 hydrogens. But this entire structure must be a part of the molecule. So you can have a complicated carboxylic acid like this one. I've got this one has double bond O and OH. And this one also has double bond O. And this carbon atom will have 3 H's, right? So I can, instead of drawing all the 3 H's, I can just write CH3. This one will have 3 H's as well. So that's a carboxylic acid as well. Okay. Remember, you can see the structure. It's C double bond O and OH. I mean, the carbon should have a double bond O and OH. Remember, direction is not important. Like if it's pointing upwards, OH is pointing over here. The carbon should have a double bond O and OH. Same over here. This one is you got a C double bond O, and you got an OH. Okay, so that's a carboxylic acid. Actually, this molecule has 2 carboxylic acid functional group. So do you understand what the carboxylic acid functional group is? Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
So alcohol jo tha na, that was just OH. Alkene was, what was alkene? Alkene was somewhere there was going to be a carbon and carbon double bond. But a carboxylic acid is that the carbon must have a double bond O and it must have an OH as well. So that structure will be present in the molecule. So the naming is the same, except that now the suffix for this one is oic acid or enoic acid. The name will end with this. So it's going to be methanoic acid, ethanoic acid, butanoic acid. Vinegar, Joanna, that's actually ethanoic acid. So let's start with methanoic acid. Remember the structure or the functional group. So I'm going to start with methanoic acid. That's so that's meth means 1 carbon atom. So you've got only 1 carbon atom. Now you have to, if you have just 1 carbon atom, you've got to put the functional group in it. It's double bond O. What's the functional double bond O and OH? So piece kya bacha? You just have 1 carbon atom. So you have to complete its bonds. That's 3 bonds already. So you can just add 1 H. Clear? That's methanoic acid. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Achha,
Yes.
here we can have ethanoic acid. That's अच्छा ये हमारा खत्म हो गया चार मतलब organic नहीं खत्म हुआ. The 4 main homologous series we are done with that. अच्छा, this one ethanoic acid, you've got eth means 2 carbon atoms. Now if I have 2 carbon atoms, I've got to put a double bond O and OH into it. So the other, now that's what a carboxylic acid is, and I can fill in the hydrogens now. Okay, this one will have 3 H's, so I can call it CH3. Similarly, I can have propanoic acid. So propanoic acid will be So I can have propanoic acid. Propanoic acid will be what it's 1, 2, 3, and I have to put the double bond O. I said remember the double bond O and OH is always at the end. Okay, because it can't be in the middle. It's always at the end. So यहाँ पे ना there's no issue about position. The position never changes. It's always at the end. Or you can say that it's always at carbon number 1. Because you start from the closest end, right? So it's always at carbon number 1. You can't put it at the middle because if you put it in the middle, तो वो carbon will not be making 4 bonds. Like if I put double bond O and OH in the middle, so you can see that this carbon is making 5 bonds. So you can't put this double bond O and OH in the middle. Carbon के जो number of bonds है ना वो 4 से increase कर जाते हैं. So you can't do that. As anyways, you can plug in the hydrogens. That's 1, 2. This one will have 2. This one will have 3. You can just call it CH3. अब बस एक आखिरी butanoic acid कर लेते हैं just for clarity. It's so we've got butanoic acid, which is carbon will have, there will be 4 carbon atoms, but, and this one will have double bond O and OH. I said now the double bond O and OH is always at the ends. It could be on the other end as well, but it can't be in the middle. अच्छा ends पे लगाने से कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. It's the same thing. Like you put it over here, you put it on the other side. It's just a flipped version of the same thing. So it doesn't really matter where you put the double bond O, but it's only going to be at the ends. So you don't have different versions. जिस तरह वो पहले था ना, the position can switch around. Over here, the position cannot really switch around. Their position, the functional group position, is going to be always at the end. And if it's either end, it's the same thing. यहाँ पे attach को, it's going to be the exact same thing. ठीक है? So is this clear? Carboxylic acid वाला part, is this clear?
Yes, sir.
So एक काम करना है. So you've got an assignment. ठीक है? This is अच्छा ये clear है तो if you're able to do this, then pretty much the rest of the organic chemistry is going to be very easy. You just have to learn a few reactions. That's it. ठीक है? But the thing is, this is the main thing. You must know how to, like if they talk about a reaction of propanoic acid, I mean, you should be able to draw what propanoic acid is. So this is the main thing. Okay? If you get this, if you know this, then the rest is very easy. जिस तरह वो equations कर रहे हैं ना, equations के अंदर everything is formulas. The rest is easy. That the rest is just memorizing stuff, right? This is the part that is hard. That you should be able to. It should be on your fingertips. Okay, what's a but? If they say butene, what does that mean? Okay, so that part is something that's important. So the assignment is I'm just going to write some random names and you should. कल वाली assignment भी अभी तक नहीं आई भी. अच्छा, you should. So this is the assignment. Note down the assignment. I'm just going to the first one. Let's say propane. I mean, draw the structures, right? Second one. Ethene. Pentanoic acid. Pentanol, but pentanol. That just means the OH is on the second carbon atom. Six is seventh is ठीक है, these are all the questions. Take a snapshot. I'm sending the ठीक है, बस ये फिंगर टिप्स पे फिर बाकी काम आसान है. ठीक है, just remember that, work on this. ठीक है, तो ये फिर कंप्लीट करना. I'm posting it on the classroom and the group as well. ठीक है, कोई क्वेश्चन नहीं है इसके बारे में. अच्छा, और एक चीज याद रखो कि just remember this, that in our course, in our syllabus, we just have straight chain. That means straight chain means the carbon atoms, I mean the naming stuff, just straight chain carbon atoms in a line, one after the other. I mean, we did talk about other versions as well, but okay, that's right at the beginning, right? Remember, this is not a straight chain, so you wouldn't be asked to name this, although it's an alkane, but it's not a straight chain. It's like branched. The carbons are not in a straight line. ये बीच में से भी नीचे से carbon निकल रहे हैं, ऊपर जा रहे हैं, so they're not in a straight line, right? So that is not straight chain. So the naming of this is not in your course. Although this molecule can come in your exams, but they won't ask you to name it, or they won't ask you to draw it. That will not be a part of what is going to be asked about it. ठीक है? So just remember, एक और भी मैंने किया था इस तरह शुरू में ना. There are cyclic versions as well, where the carbon atoms could be in a ring structure, right? But that is also not a part of your course. ठीक है? So you won't be asked to name it, or you won't be asked to draw it. It might come in your exams. You can see that it's an alkene, right? It's got a carbon and carbon double bond, but they won't ask you to draw it. They won't ask you to name it. That is not in your course. ठीक है, इसका ख्याल रखना. तो बस ठीक है, ये मैं उधर पोस्ट कर रहा हूँ. चलिए, कोई क्वेश्चन नहीं है किसी का?
No, sir.
चलिए ठीक है. Okay then everyone. Assignment please complete करना. ठीक है. Okay, अल्लाह हाफिज.
No.